Hello, people of YouTube, it's Deepak here, and welcome to DCS News for the 18th of January 2025. That was my most recent tutorial video all about the Apache and how to fire rockets. I hope that you enjoyed it. That's my continuing series on the Apache. There will be more videos about the rockets because actually firing rockets in the Apache is wonderfully complex and there are many, many different ways of doing it. So what I demonstrated was like the absolute most basic ways of doing it from the pilot's seat. We have a lot more to cover. Of course, cooperative mode with the CPG, using the FCR, using the TADS, using the laser for ranging information. So we've got a lot more exciting things to come. But that's not why you're watching today. You're watching because a really exciting thing dropped just a few days ago. It was the 2025 and beyond video, which is kind of a big event for us DCSers each year. And so I thought it was important that we pay special attention to this, dive into it quite a bit, and have some discussion. Now, of course, as much fun as it is to do that just with me, it's way more fun if we have additional people. So let's bring in Dot Chuckles and John Bluer. Hello there. People that you may have heard of and seen before, not least of which on this stream. And I'm only just now noticing that the audio for that is incorrect. Give me 1 sec. Nobody can actually hear you. What about speaking now? There it is.
Oh, hello.
There you go.
I had the wrong audio device.
It's me, the ghost of Christmas shit.
Oh, very nice to have you both back. Welcome to the DCS News.
Yes.
And let's quickly say hello to chat. Hello there, Mark S, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Tog, James Fenton, Exorcist, Mad Dog Max 78, Colin Kelly, Arthur Van Rijn, someone called John Bluer, Charts,
Good
Pink
Lord.
Floyd, Dirk G. Oh wow, there's too many actually. It's scrolling too fast. Charts saying must be a big news week. 3 presenters. Indeed, indeed. Attack Debris, Tech Gaming 45, Hyena, Only Napalm, Byron Farrow, Mr. Yeti. They're starting to sound like Deepak's ground crew. Nico, B. Denson, Paul Dillon, Dan Scott. Who else have we got? Wow, it's just going and going and going. Tarka Chops, Interesting Story, Zathras. There's this Dot Chuckles guy. And B. Denson. And one of the first comments referencing you, Dot Chuckles, saying, was it the F-35 that brought him back?
No. No, I came back because you asked really, really nicely and I had the capacity. So I thought, I can do that. I shall dust the vocal cords off for you.
That Deepak fellow, he's awful, but I can deal with him for one day.
For one day, yeah.
It'll be okay. Nico, hi. I think we can all agree that the Draken is the most exciting thing in the trailer, right? Right? Well,
It's pretty exciting. Yeah.
it is. It is.
It does sort of take me back to a god awful, fantastic Nick Cage film called Wings of the Apache or / Firebirds, depending where you are in the world, where he shoots a dragon down with a stinger taken off the side of an Apache, I'm pretty sure.
That's right. That's right. That
No,
does
it
happen.
wasn't. Was it Nick Cage that shoots him down, or was it his?
It's Sean Young.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Sean Young. She gets a stinger out at one point, doesn't she?
That's right. It was her. Yeah.
Absolute madness.
Great film.
Such a good. And by great, we mean shite, but it's great because it is.
It's a film. It's a term. I term these films infra bad. That they are so bad that they've gone right off the bottom of the spectrum into really quite good.
Yeah.
And I do admit, when I first got the Apache for DCS, I did charge along 20 feet off the deck going, I am the greatest! I am the greatest!
Exactly. Yeah. You have to do it.
Tarka Chops is asking us if Pornhub is down.
I don't know. Let me hit refresh.
Yeah. That's why I've got 10 tabs that won't open.
Second screen!
Oh dear. Yes, indeed. So anyway, there is a reason why we're all here, and it's because it is that exciting time of the year when we have the DCS 2025 and beyond video. And that's something that we want to dive into a little bit. But we did also get a newsletter this week, and it would be remiss of us not to very quickly gaze over that, although I don't think there's really very much to talk about there. So let's jump to here and have a quick look. Of course, the first thing they mention is the 2025 and beyond. So, yep, 2025 promises to be a busy and exciting year for Eagle Dynamics with the continued development of DCS Core, the enhancement of existing modules, and the launch of new and valuable products. Valuable to who? But along with our third-party affiliates, we aim to elevate DCS to new heights, and we hope that this video offers a good glimpse into some of the exciting things we're up to. While several of the products featured will be released in 2025, the video also focuses on our development priorities and objectives. Many of which, such as Dynamic Campaign, have been in the works for far longer than planned, draining more resources than expected, and sometimes creating frustration for many. This seems to be a constant with technology and engineering products the world over, and par for the course. But as we push the envelope and seek to achieve even higher levels of realism and authenticity, we promise to do our very best to meet your expectations. Thank you for standing with us, and for helping us to improve and grow DCS. So many words, but what does any of that mean? I don't think it matters. I think it's the visuals that matter in this case. But before we get to those, there's also a landing gear modeling development progress bit. So basically, they've written some kind of a white paper about tire strut suspension modeling.
If I need something to fall asleep, I'll grab that.
In fact, let's forget about reviewing the 2025 and beyond video. I think we do a deep dive into this white paper instead.
Yeah. I think that is what people want to read and want to know about.
It's what the people want.
Oleo compression and tire pressures at 45,000 feet with nitrogen. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Fucking hell.
I actually I can barely keep track of chat right now. It's kind of scrolling and scrolling. But anyway, Mr. Yeti, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a lot of people calling out for the Jet Provost and Strike Master. I would give a nut to have that. Actually,
are you saying you would not?
I would, because the Jet Provost, I just love it. It's such an adorable trainer. I think it's great, and the Strike Master I think would go quite well because it's good for sort of coin and brush war stuff, and it is an interesting aircraft.
Absolutely,
so I would definitely have one.
Mr. Yeti saying, this is brilliant. I'm enjoying this immensely already. I'm very happy that you are. I'm also enjoying this immensely already. And I'll quickly get in my little, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment. That's a really big help to me and to the channel. An enigmatic penguin calling out something that both John and Chuck mentioned to me separately before entering this call, and that is Wags doing the Nick Gray passion and support meme on his QA was like dividing by zero.
Passion and support.
I thought that was quite funny that he did that.
Yeah.
It does remind me a bit. This is going to go perhaps right over the heads of anybody that is young or not from the UK, but it always reminds me of the fantastic comedy series Black Books, where there was an episode with a cameo from Peter Serafinowicz in it, doing the Radio 4 shipping forecast, and all I can think of is Fran.
That was amazing. Fran, yeah.
Fran.
Oh, so good.
Oh dear. We've got the Rocinante here. I'm all for F-35. Maybe it'll be able to give other aircraft data link tracks so they don't need to turn their radars on and to fire. Well, everything needs to turn its radar on to fire, as far as I'm aware. I don't exactly know how. What's the super duper long range air to air missile that Eurofighter has?
Meteor.
I have a funny feeling that Meteor can be fired without a radar lock, but basically everything else needs a radar track.
Yeah.
So no, that's not going to work. However, F-35
target
is
shops,
interesting.
Buccaneer, bloody hell, yes.
Yes, indeed.
Buccaneer would be great.
You do need about 3 arms to fly it.
Yes, probably.
Because it was a bit unergonomic in the cockpit.
Welcome to the stream. It's Llama93. Anything else that we want to pull out just now? Dancer watching Mr. Chuckles when Deep was reading that initial blurb, priceless. His face was like, I have so many hot takes on this. I do not doubt.
Here. I'm here for garbage hot takes and you having to retract things later and generally being an idiot.
Well, that is perfectly acceptable. We're all here for the bans.
Yeah.
And then the end of the newsletter is actually just the MI24P Hind livery competition. We did have 3 winners. They got a bunch of ED miles. So that's kind of the whole thing with the newsletter. However, that's not why we're here. I wonder, gentlemen, shall we go straight to the meat of the event, play the video, and then whenever you tell me to pause it, I will.
I want the meat and 2 veg.
I thought you might.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, I'm playing this without audio because it's all copyrighted. But here's the main event. And of course, straight away, what are we confronted
Dynamic
with?
Campaign. Dynamic campaign.
And it does look
front
nice.
lines moving. Yeah.
And I think, was it just last week, John, that me and you were saying, we think Dynamic Campaign will appear in the 2025 and beyond video, but how are they going to represent that visually in a way that's going to be interesting? And by gum, they did it. They actually did it.
Yeah.
It actually looks pretty good, I think. And yeah, of course, showing off the new fog and sand and dust effects to great effect. Like these shots here with the night vision and the low lighting conditions and all that looking.
Stop. So there is something here that I'm either behind the times, but does the interface and the reticule now, do we think that has been added, or have they been updating, what was it, the ground branch part of
Combined Arms,
DCS?
it's called.
Combined Arms. Is that not looking a little bit more
realistic,
accurate and simmy? Or have I just missed something here? Or are we perhaps getting some more Combined Arms goodness?
Well,
I suspect so.
Yeah, exactly. I think for the purposes of this video, that is just post-processing. Because that's not in-game, is my understanding.
No. But are they teasing something here?
Yes, quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Because I know that one of the things that they said about limiting, that there was a limitation on Combined Arms and why they didn't push it forward more, was that the maps weren't good enough, like for low level, like down in the weeds driving a tank.
Yeah.
But that things were improving, and as that they improved, and like let's face it, some of the maps that are coming out now are really high fidelity close up down at low level.
They are.
Yeah.
Is this the time where they're going to maybe give some Combined Arms love? Because I think that would be awesome.
I hope so. We've also got Byron Farrow asking, is this actual visuals from the Dynamic Campaign? And I think the answer to that is no. I think this is a visualization that they've made for the video.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they've put that much work into the UI to make it look like that.
One thing I wondered, and I couldn't tell if it was the new lighting or not, but the explosions look a lot better.
They do.
They look a lot better. They're not perfect, but they look a lot better than they are. So I have a feeling either it might be the lighting, or it's that. I don't know.
I've actually I already, the new lighting and the fog is awesome. So I think you're right there, John. That there's stuff. And Mr. Yeti saying in chat, yep, the soldiers are way more detailed. Why do that unless you are updating Combined Arms?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Deep, I cut you right off.
Oh no, it's fine. I've already watched. I've forgotten his name now. A famous DCS YouTuber did an analysis of this video already. Is it with a J? What's his name again? Oh my, that's so embarrassing. I'll come back to it if I remember. But he was saying that he believes there are new explosion and fire effects coming. And we know the ED have been working on these because they want to implement firebombs. So it might be that we're also seeing some new effects. Tricker. How did Byron Farrow know that I wanted to save Tricker? I watched Tricker's video, and Tricker said that he believes there are new effects coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue. But yeah, I think that's not in game. We've got those shockwaves that look so good. Yeah.
That night NVG effect on that drop was so good.
Yeah.
That's another thing I thought looks better is the NVGs. Again, I
Yeah,
can't
it
tell
does.
if they're using post-processing, but that looks way better than the in-game NVGs at the moment.
Well, I don't think it's post-processing, because if you look at the Z depth, sorry, yeah, I guess people know what Z depth is.
Yes.
Like if you notice that the focus point on the NVG, like it's like the, how do I explain this in layman's terms? Like the depth of field it looks like it's in engine and not post-process. So
Yeah.
like I think that's a new NVG effect.
I want to call out the lighting here of the different explosions at different distances in the fog, just here.
Oh, yeah.
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 And that's all thanks to the new fog.
Yeah.
And
the illumination of the tracers on the ground. Like, oofed.
Oofed indeed. A bunch of ground forces here, looking very fancy. An F-14 doing its thing. The C-130.
Mm-hmm.
That was a quick shot
Typhoon?
of the Eurofighter.
Oh, not Typhoon, Eurofighter. Yeah,
Typhoon,
it's not
Eurofighter.
the British one, is it?
I guess. Yeah. And then we also got the MiG-29A, which is also going to be coming. And we're going to see a lot of the MiG-29A. Mark S, also collapsing buildings. We already have collapsing buildings in game. Yeah, is anyone else saying? Adrian Logan, if you watch the Q&A from WAGs today, it's something they want to work on, but they need to improve other things first. Yeah. Pink Floyd says John's scrolling text is very liberated.
Oh, yeah, in the background. Yeah.
Nice.
There's 3 hunks in a stream.
That's us. Yeah, we will be talking about the Q&A a bit later on, because it dropped 3 hours ago, and I think we all quickly watched it and had things to say.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's continue. These soldiers, and again this reticle. So those soldiers are not in game at present, as far as I'm aware. This reticle is not in game, but these might be things that are coming.
Yeah. Like, we need to read the disclaimer at the end, because the disclaimer says what they've added, and if they've said CG elements, then yeah. But I'd like to think that they're giving it some love.
Oh, I would hope so. Mr. Yeti saying no cockpit shots from the Typhoon, though, and yeah, that's something I noted as well.
Yeah.
Lots of explosions. Some F4
and over Berlin, I think, for the looks of it.
Yeah. Oh, and I missed giving you that one there. Of course, first shot of the Super Saber.
Yes. Yes.
Looking
bountiful. We can all do the saber dance.
We can all do the saber dance.
Yeah.
More dynamic campaign. Some F4. Something getting splatted. Here's I just missed it again. I'm really bad at getting this timing right. We had our Drakens. That's our first shot of the AI Draken units, I believe, coming from Heat Blur. So yeah, let's continue. Yeah, some Kiowa. Again, shots in the fog looking amazing. There's some Typhoon and a B-52, I believe. An F5. An F-117. Apparently, the F-117 is going to be coming to us as an AI unit. So that's nice. More Typhoon. MiG-29. S-300, I believe that we just got a quick shot of. More fancy looking ground troops and ground units.
Those ground troops are looking so much better.
Yeah, that animation's really good.
They've been showing off updated animations for a while, but yeah, this is the most we've seen of them. So now we get the camera part of the video. Take a deep breath, everyone. This is normally when we'd hear the dulcet tones of Nick Gray, but for some reason he's not present this time.
Thank you for your passion and support. Yeah, we were waiting for that.
Yeah, this is nice. We see some nice cam shots of different aircraft. Our first kind of in-video shots of the MiG-29's cockpit. Liking the detail here.
Lush.
Yeah.
It's not dirty enough, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very Soviet looking.
You know what I find interesting, Deep? They've barely shown that heads down display.
Yeah,
Which
true.
makes me have some questions about that.
Well, we definitely still have some questions about that heads down display.
Yeah.
Hammy might be wrong, but it looked like a meteor on the Eurofighter's wing. That's an
Ooh.
interesting one. It is supposed to be getting included at some stage, but I don't know if we're getting it from the beginning. Squeaky, evening, all props to ED for not using a generic warp sound in the Beyond Fed.
Oh yeah, the Inception sound they always use.
Yeah, the Inception horns or some kind of drone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
now
all modern
what
trailers are now.
now what I believe we're looking at is the ground mapping radar of the C-130, which is very, very nice to see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say
I don't
it anyway.
think you're allowed to, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that, if it's what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. So anyway, yeah, this is looking very convincing.
Accurate, yeah.
Yeah, it's looking very accurate. And then here we go on to the next thing that is, of course, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool indeed. F-14B in brackets U.
Yeah.
So yes, slightly reorged cockpit with a nice new HUD and some other fancy bits and bobs.
This was like the Tomcat's final form, wasn't it? It's like sort of fully evolved version, wasn't it?
This is the bit between the D, yeah. So this is before you get to the D. This is the last upgrade they did to the Bs, and then the D was a complete rewire, and they gutted the thing out and made it all new. But yeah, this one's cool. There's more shots. I don't know if you've got them, Deep, but it shows the PTID and all that kind of stuff as well, which is cool. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, it's looking very nice. And then here, this is the heads-up display for the C-130, which is very, very nice to see.
Oh, that is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice, like the sort of bloom effect of having your HUD up too bright is just really top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, DCS has always rendered the heads-up displays very well, I think.
Yeah, it did the green soup quite well. Yeah,
very much so. So continuing on, we see this is the Typhoon perched out the back of a C-130's cargo ramp, which is cool to see. I think this is kind of hinting at the fact that they are eventually going to produce KC-130 variants.
That's the tip, love.
So it's at some stage we're going to have human pilots flying the refuelers, which I'm not massively excited about doing that. Like, do you really want to be flying in a circle all day? But hey.
Yeah. Do you know, the thing is that is something that people have asked for quite a while, and I guess it scratches the same itch for people who like want to do logistics stuff and things like that. I mean, like it's not my bag, but I can totally understand why people will want to do it, and like, or if you want to be a boom operator or something like that, like I can, like, again, yeah, it's not something I'd necessarily choose to do, but I can completely understand why people want it and would want to sort of be part of the bigger picture like that,
You have people doing like Truck Simulator and MSFS, and they'll do a whole long haul flight, in a 737. So if they're willing to do that, the idea of doing something like this doesn't seem that crazy.
And I think as well, like, I mean, there's a sort of wider comment on DCS and people having time to invest into DCS. I mean, some of these DCS modules, I mean, you are literally talking about having to take years to fully learn and fully be able to implement them because they are at the level of complexity of real life.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that time. Not everybody has, all the free time to be able to go and read all the manuals and learn all the things and put all the study into it, but they still want to take part in stuff, which is why things like, okay, well, I can go and be a boom operator. It's like they can still take part, they can still do something, but if they're of limited time, or if they don't quite have the twitch skills anymore, to be able to go in air combat, well, you've still got a function. So I think there's a role for this kind of stuff,
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially if you make an aero refueler, if you could have it where it's assignable, a bit like when you have like combined arms, when you can jump in a vehicle and jump back out again. If you could have it so you could jump into the air tanker when it's doing its thing, and then when it goes back into a circuit, you just jump back out again.
Yeah,
I could see people doing that.
Yeah,
That's a fair
Byron
point.
Farrow just said I struggle with anything too complex for that reason. Vegan is about the right level for me. It's why I love flying Scout Helos, because they're very pure. You can jump in it. You got a couple of systems to boot up, and you're off and you're flying. I mean, that's not to say that you can't get super complex in terms of tactical movement in a Scout Helo, but I don't have to sit and read an inch thick manual and know all these systems off by heart. So yeah, I think again it would fit that niche. And again, things like logistics and flying around logistics and stuff like that kind of does, I think, the same thing. So yeah, I think it's something that
Mr. Chuck,
we should see.
L model Gazelle.
Oh yes, yeah,
beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's all you need. That's all you need. Little helicopter with a camera. That's all I need. Somebody else was saying something. Oh yeah, Squeaky. They need to do a collab with Power Wash Simulator. Afghan is a dusty place. Oh dear. Yes. But actually,
my word. That's a genius idea.
Going around the whole airfield.
Genius. No. Washing your plate at the end of it. I mean, I just jumped into MS 2024, and you can do the thing where you can walk around and pull the pitot covers off and stuff like that. Can you imagine doing that and then just power washing your aircraft at the end of the sortie? Great, wonderful.
That'd be kind of fun. And actually, yeah, to feed into the comment about logistics and refueling, I fly X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Simulator. I do 1 and 2 hour commercial flights. I've often, I have done it occasionally in DCS. You've done positioning flights and things like that. Put aircraft into their transit configurations and then done kind of a longer flight from one place to another. It's kind of fun. So yeah, I get it. Rudol Zavendo, any timeline when we will get dynamic campaign? I don't know. It's in the 2025 and beyond video, which means it should arrive sometime during 2025 or beyond. That's all we can say.
John, did I hear a quiet this year from you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with John. I think this year, because they've been working on this for a really, really long while. And it was the first thing featured in this video.
True.
And it's featured quite heavily. I mean, that whole front section was about dynamic campaign. I don't think we're going to see it in the next few months, but I think before the end of the year or maybe early into next. I don't think it's far off.
That's a fair point.
And also, the first iteration of any thing that ED do is always a bit bare bones, isn't it? Let's be honest. You kind of get the light version first, and then it kind of fleshes out. So I think people just need to temper their expectations for the initial version of dynamic campaign, because I think at least as far as it is, you're going to be able to see those nuts and bolts pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. I 100% agree, because I think a lot of people are going to go in expecting. Now, let's not forget that it's coming up on 30 years, nearly 30 years. But they're going to go in and expecting the Falcon 4 dynamic campaign, which for being old is really good. And I think that's the yardstick that everybody's going to measure this against. And yeah, I think, John, you're right. People are just maybe going to have to be look, be glad you've got a dynamic campaign. It'll get better.
Yeah, pretty much. All righty, let's roll. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. I was saying, speaking of dynamic campaign, I watched a couple of videos of someone streaming Longbow 2, the old Jane's Longbow 2, just that one up there.
Great
and it had
game.
a pretty good dynamic campaign. Each mission would affect each next thing.
Yeah. It's really funny that we think. I mean, these titles are 25 years old, maybe more, and they were able to pull off that kind of believable dynamic scenario back then. But we've not really had anything that's been able to do that. Or and I offer the counter argument: Are we all donning our rose-tinted spectacles a bit.
It wasn't that long ago that I actually flew Falcon 4 and did the Dynamic campaign again, and it is very impressive. But I think people forget about, was it DID who had titles like EF 2000? Its Dynamic campaign was also very, very good. People forget about F22 and EF 2000 also had really good dynamic campaigns.
Yeah, what was it? Because F22, I mean, that was all billed as tactical air war, wasn't it? Because it was,
And actually, Rudy Zavendo actually just made the exact same point as me at the same time. So yeah, EF 2000 had a great dynamic campaign. Let's roll. Let's roll the video.
Yeah, we're getting totally sidelined here.
Lots more F4s, MiG-29, F-14s, Supercarrier.
Abram. Oh, no, that's not.
Here, Super Sabres again. Some Typhoons again.
That's Berlin.
Yeah, that's is that Tegel? Yeah. So yeah, we're now seeing what is almost certainly the Fulda Gap map. More Typhoon.
Wow. Action. No, not Fulda Gap. Berlin. Berlin's quite a long way from the Fulda Gap. So unless the map is massive,
I was assuming...
talk about that when we'll talk about that when we talk about the Q&A, because there's stuff relevant to that in there.
Very well. More F4 action. The Chinook. I think it's the first time that's shown up in the video, and an Apache. Some more Typhoons. Some F-15s. Yeah. Very nice shot of the kind of sunset there in the F-16.
Corsair.
Yeah.
See the trees move.
Yes.
Yeah, that flex is really nice.
Yeah. Lots of things going boom.
And of course, there's 2 teasers at the end of this video.
Yes. Yeah, we're coming to that quite soon.
Yeah, we're getting to that. Yeah.
Cargo.
That's cool.
Cargo dropping
Cargo
at the back
drops.
of a C-130.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, actually. That's going to be very interesting.
And the fact that they had a Moab sitting in one of the shots.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be cool. And yeah, more shots of the
tree
troops.
looking good as well.
Yeah, Viggen. The Viggen's actually turned up a couple of times there. C-130, Typhoon.
Yeah, 15C by the looks of it.
Well, and of course we know why.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for making our dreams come true.
Thank you for making our dreams come true.
Brad.
And then, of course, coming to DCS. Now in development. And there she is. Full fidelity F-15C. And I suspect that it already showed up a few times in the video, but
it did.
Yeah. But of course, when I was watching it, I just assumed it was a Strike Eagle.
Yeah. So I think one thing about them doing the C is, this is my theory, they're tooling up potentially in case the Razbam stuff all falls through, because you got like packs and the same, is it the APG 68 or whatever it is, and I think that's what they're doing. So if it does fall through, they can either remake it or finish it off, or whatever happens. Also, BMS just bringing in a F-15C as well.
Yes.
I think it's also a little bit of them reacting to that as well. So it makes sense, really, that they were doing it.
I think that's because EED tends to be reactive to things that other sims are doing, and I think it's not a coincidence that BMS recently brought in the F-15C, and also, as you say, it might be them getting ready to take over the Strike Eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that at the end, that was exactly where my mind went. I kind of didn't want to go there because the can of worms that opens up in terms of things. But I mean, it would make a hell of a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Because
and it's almost certainly where they're going to have to go. Like I don't see any resolution to this Raspberry ED situation. They're going to have to take over the modules at some stage, I think.
Yeah, because it's such an important aircraft. It can't die on the vine. So,
Yeah. Sadly, as much as I love the Harrier and I love the Mirage 2000s, they're not as important as a Strike Eagle. The Strike Eagle is like a crown jewel jet, and I just can't imagine ED just letting that die. They're going to have to either, like I said, remake it or continue it or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the M2000C, as far as its state and level of implementation, I would say is perfect. The M2000C doesn't need to be touched and might not need to be touched for years.
Safe. Yeah. It needs to be isolated, doesn't it? If they can just have an interface between that and everything else, it doesn't break. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, because I mean that's the difficulty, is that as core DCS progresses, if they're not maintained, then they will, they'll break. So I mean, if this container, I think, thing that's been talked about, or translation layer, makes it work, then because you're right in terms of features, the Mirage is great. The Harrier, on the other hand,
I was going to come to that. Yeah, the Harrier is not.
No,
it's not terrible, but and it's the one I fly the most. I like it very much, but it's fair to say that it's not quite at the same level as the M2000C.
No.
Yeah.
Only Napalm. Yes, there is not any kind of view to LLM or generative AI. So sad. Okay. Oh, they're talking about working AI. So some dude 88 saying, "Where's the working AI?" Well, the game has had AI for 20 years now.
Well, again, there's a little reference to that in the Q&A about AI, but to do with ATC. So
yes, that's right.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Colin Kelly, Harrier is important due to the carrier that is in DCS. Yeah, strongly agree. HMS Invincible means that Harrier is very important. South Atlantic map, of course, makes the Harrier very important. The fact that it's my favorite aircraft makes the Harrier very important.
Yeah, but again, I can still understand why the focus needs to be on getting the F-15E back, because not dismissing how important the Harrier is, again, because we're all Harrier fans and because there's assets around it, but people got into DCS because the F-15 came to it.
That's true.
It's whereas I don't think many people picked up DCS because the Harrier was coming. Like,
maybe,
maybe, but
Byron Farrow making the point, we're currently at 127 on the stream. I think that is officially
it's a lot of folks.
And it's the most that have ever been on stream. So I'll take this opportunity again to say, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe, hit the like, make a comment, make some noise, make that Google algorithm pay attention. That'd be fantastic. Mark S saying, I can't listen to AI voices, deal breaker for me. That is something that Wags says in the Q&A. He talks about the AI voices a little bit. But anyway, we'll deal with that later. Eagle Wings, the 2025 and beyond, not showing any of Razbam's modules tells a lot. The fact that the relationship has gone sour. Well, I think we already knew that.
I don't know if it's necessarily about the relationship going sour. I think it's more that, like, everything is tied up in legal at the moment.
Yes.
And you showing a product in a trailer, like, I mean, we don't know if there are sort of legal implications around that or IP implications around that. So I wouldn't maybe read a massive amount into it. But I mean, I think we all know that they're not best pals right now.
No.
But I don't think that, when they were editing this up together, that anybody said, "Oh, don't put that in because fuck them." I think it's more like, don't put any of that in because we've got a whole bunch of legal stuff going on.
I agree, because I've heard that take before now. Since the video came out, that people go, "There's no Razbam, it means it's done." And I'm like, I think it's them playing it extremely safe. This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
being litigated behind the scenes, very
Yeah,
heavily
yeah.
litigated, and there's going to be no love lost. So don't
Mm.
don't screw the pooch, basically. So I think, I think it's literally them just playing it super safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
So back to the point of what is actually on the screen, F-15C. Which of us are excited for this aircraft? I know myself. I will certainly. It's not.
Very
It's
much
not
so.
one that I've ever really been looking for, but once it's in the sim, I will absolutely fly it because it is kind of the quintessential air superiority fighter of our era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I respect it. It's a good aircraft. I'm not a massive F-15 fan.
It's almost slightly boring because it is so good. In a way.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% respect it. Like, it is a phenomenal aircraft, and it's Kelly Johnson again, wasn't it, that designed it? So it's sort of it's got a pedigree that goes back to the Mustang. So I completely respect it. I don't know. It's just it's not an aircraft that's ever like really excited me, like at air shows and stuff. Like I was never like sort of hanging around going, oh my god, the F-15's coming, but then I'm a weirdo British person, so maybe that's why.
I have a vague
Our American
recollection.
cousins perhaps might be much more excited.
Oh yeah, I have a vague recollection, and as vague recollections go, it of course might be complete nonsense. But am I right in thinking that an F-15C has never been lost due to enemy fire, like in air to air?
Right.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think it has like a X to 0, kill to death ratio, basically.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it was built to counter the MiG-25.
Correct.
Because they published a whole bunch of MiG-25 can do this, can do that, can do this, can do that, and America went, fuck, we better fix this. We better put something out that can counter that. And so they did, and they made the finest killing machine on the planet.
Yes.
And then we found out that the MiG-25 was a big pile of poop with that ran on vodka, and so it just ended up being so overmatched.
Yes.
and then of course the Russians countered and updated the MiG-25 and made it actually sort of reasonably capable.
Then the MiG-35 came along.
Yeah.
Tech Gaming 45 saying that he believes it's 101 kills to 0 shootdowns in the case of the F-15,
including a satellite.
Including a satellite.
Yeah, it shot down a satellite. It's
That's pretty impressive. And one, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Need more red full fidelity. That's not going to come from Russia. Yeah. However, give Deca Ironworks some money and they'll give you some Chinese stuff. And I think Chinese stuff is going to be where your new Red 4 comes from.
Mm.
I wonder, because the MiG-29 came, that we're getting, the full fidelity MiG-29 that we're getting, that came out of former Eastern European air forces.
Yes.
And that's how they got their hands on that.
Yes. It's not the Russian spec version. It's the...
Right.
It's the other, but it's not the export spec either. I think it's the one in between, like the other socialist state kind of version, the in-between version.
Yeah. So what about an export Su-27? Because I mean, that went to Eastern Europe, it went to India, it went to China, and they just changed the name on it. So, like, I mean, yeah, like I think an Su-27 could be possible. I don't think any later Sukhoi than the Su-27, though. I think that's totally right out. But 27 maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to see someone take over the 23, because obviously that died with Razbam leaving, but the 23 would be a cool one as well. Yeah, I think someone could take that over. Urges or Deca or one of those guys. They'd be great for that.
I mean, the 23, it's comedy bad, but it would be good fun to fly.
Oh, definitely. Mark S saying here that 9line didn't discount the Su-27 in the forums, so he said it could.
Oh well,
be
there
a
we go.
possibility.
Yeah. There we go.
And of course, that would be a kind of fantastic kind of circular thing, because that's where ED began, of course, with the Su-27.
Yeah, I have SU-27 boxed with all the manuals and maps somewhere back there. Yeah.
Yeah, Tech Gaming 45 saying a Ukrainian SU-27.
Mm.
And well, of course, most of the SU-27s you flew in the original game were in fact Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tarka Chops, isn't the issue that a lot of the company developers are in Russia? I don't know about a lot, but certainly some of them are still in Russia. And yes,
and the company is no longer Russian, I believe. They have moved, relocated their legal entity to be in Switzerland. So I don't know how relevant that is anymore. But yeah, there's certainly some developers in Russia. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure they don't want to end up in Gulag.
No.
So yeah, that probably affects what they can do. Yeah, like I said, and this is only my opinion. My personal opinion is that we're really not going to see much of Russian origin. However, we should look to other Red 4 sources, and I think China is a very, very good one. There's so many good Chinese stuff that we could have instead. And I think that's going to be the way to go. And of course, Heatblur, of course, eventually intending to deliver Iranian stuff for us in the form of the F-14A to the Iranian spec. I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, you take about China. The thing is China not even more protective and guarding over its military stuff?
Over its domestic stuff, yes, but they make so much export versions that I think we could see the Chinese export stuff.
Fair point.
Yeah, so no, I agree. Like, I don't think you're going to see, I don't think you're going to see their frontline stuff, but their export stuff almost certainly could be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You've also got like little things like is it the Su-17? Is it the Fencer? Some of these older air-to-ground stuff as well. They could do a full fidelity frogfoot. You know, there's tons of people got Su-25s. You've also got countries like, is it like Angola? And like they've got loads of like these weird Algeria. Some of those guys have got a lot of ex-Soviet bloc stuff. So you're gonna have to look to the ex-Soviet bloc countries, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Guys. Probably.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about stuff down in Africa, then we could, in theory, get a hunter.
Yeah,
right.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yogi, any news on the Typhoon being launched into beta this year? No. Heatblur have not mentioned any timeline for that. I would doubt it because, of course, they still have their hands full. They want to do the Draken, they want to do the A6, they want to give us the F-14BU. They're still working on the F4, so I would be surprised. But thank you very much for the donation there, Yogi. That's very kind.
The Eurofighter, is that not a separate team that's working on it though?
Well, that was True Grit originally, wasn't it? And then they,
yeah,
Heatblur kind of helped them out. So,
but the thing is, the helping out that Heatblur are providing, I would assume, and again, this is an assumption, it would be on the engineering side because True Grit, they had the subject matter experts, they had all the materials, they had the licenses, but I think the reason they teamed up with Heatblur is because they didn't have the development resource. So I would imagine that it's still going to take up a lot of Heatblur's time to work on that.
So yeah, F-15, big ass killing machine. I can 100% understand why people are excited for it. I can totally get it. I mean, I'll get it, I'll fly it, but I'm not massively excited for it. But I completely respect why people are.
Before we get into the next thing, would you describe the F-15 as it's a bit ketchup? Like everyone likes ketchup, but it's a bit standard, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's it. It's like who doesn't like ketchup, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I might not necessarily want to put it on my filet mignon, you know?
Yeah. I like Yogi's take on our next bit here. F-35 ? No way they'll be able to make that realistic, bearing in mind the lack of information. And
got a theory.
Oh, he's got a theory.
Yeah, carry on.
We of course do have the FAQ where they address exactly this, and they do mention the fact that they're mostly using open source resources here, which is interesting given that like so much of the F-35 is still completely classified. So I don't know.
Its flight characteristics aren't though.
No. But they certainly
systems are, but its flight characteristics aren't.
Yeah, but they're not going to have any access to manuals, which is a big thing.
Well, I have a theory. We'll get to it.
Yeah, I wonder if my theory is the same as yours does. I've got
Yeah.
a theory about
I'll
what's going on.
show you mine. You show me yours.
I'll cover my eyes.
Boom,
Yeah.
ba-da-da-dum, boom.
Alrighty, well, you guys should carry on because we have an image
Right.
of the absolutely beautiful F-35A model is what we're initially getting. Very important for let me school the children very quickly. The F-35 comes in 3 variants. The A model being the normal Air Force variant, which is full weight, designed to take off and land from airfields. We then have the B model, which is in effect our replacement for the Harrier, and that's your VTOL and stall aircraft. And then you have the C model, which is the carrier capable version of the F-35, which requires catapults to launch. It's not able to do short takeoff.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, John, if your theory is the same as mine, that basically the US is Oprah Winfreying the F-30. You get an F-35, you get an F-35, everybody gets an F-35. Desktop trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Military contracts? Was that your theory?
I think that they have got a MCS contract with a country, a third-party country, and they need a cheaper alternative to one of the official ones. So people saying it's they have a deal directly with Lockheed Martin. I don't think it is. I think it's a third-party country, a partner, whatever they call it. And I think that they've got access to documents. And
Turkey?
I think what we'll get in DCS, yeah, it could be one in Turkey. Yeah, I think what we'll get in DCS will be a deliberately doctored version for obvious reasons, but certain things will be relatively accurate. But because the thing is, if you stumble upon the right details by accident, by simulating things, you're going to get yourself into hot water. Because then you're going to get people knocking on your door going, how did you know that? Even if you just stumbled on it by accident. But if you already know what the actual details are, you can make sure you don't get those details right. So I think they do have details, and I think they're playing coy, and that's my theory.
Yeah, I mean, let's caveat this with this is wild speculation on our part.
Yeah.
But my theory is that like the F-35, it's batshit insane to bring to DCS just on we'll do it, because I remember way back, we're going back maybe 10 years ago now, somebody popped up doing an F-35, and it got as far as having an official channel on the forums, and then it all went away. And I think, John, your point about you wouldn't do it, because like you don't have enough information, you don't have enough docs. It's going to be totally Star Wars. I mean, okay, the flight dynamics is pretty much out there in the public domain because it's NASA testing stuff. And yeah, you just wouldn't do it because that's not what ED do. They won't do anything unless they've got some good, solid information, or like, they can point to something and go, well, this is out in the public domain, and it's good enough. And yeah, your point about you don't want to be doing this so that the men in black come and knock on your door and go, stop it, or we'll put you away somewhere very dark for the rest of your life. There's so many risks with doing it. So they must have some kind of reason for doing it other than just, oh, well, that'll be cool.
The desktop simulator angle I rather like, and I think is plausible because it's exactly the reason that we got the A10C in DCS was because of the desktop trainer that they were making for the National Guard. So it could be the case.
Yeah, that's my theory. That's why it's that somewhere their contractor side of ED, I think somebody's approached them and said, hey, we're about to get the F-35. We need some kind of a trainer, or some kind of systems trainer or procedure trainer. And yeah, that we'll get a doctored version. That's my theory on it. Wild speculation though. But it feels like it's too left field to not have a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a number of people in chat kind of saying, oh, and it's discussion I've heard on the internet in general as well. Is this going to be bringing down the level of fidelity in DCS in general, or are AD throwing out the rule book and saying, well, we can take some guesses and make something that's not full fidelity? Is this going to drag down all of DCS? I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and I think that's definitely a valid concern and something to be discussed. But for the reasons that you guys mention, I think it may not be the case. It might be people getting a bit too panicky for no reason, but who knows, really?
Well, I mean, I understand the argument. But as even Wags himself has said, at the end of the day, it's a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the pitchforks. And the thing is as the technology advances, and as the expected level of visual realism and visual enhancements. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. The expected level of realism, the expected level of graphical realism, and all this kind of stuff, and all these systems. That stuff is so expensive, and at the end of the day, DCS is quite niche.
Yeah.
And I mean, doing something that is going to perhaps pull in a whole bunch of folk because it's an aircraft with a cool factor that kind of is expanded out of our niche. Like, I can see from a business point of view why that might be essential to keeping your company going. So
it could definitely create quite a big cash injection.
Well, yeah, and I guess, but like on the flip side, I understand that, this is the gold standard in realism, that everything is supposed to be realistic. But the thing is all the way through, Eagle Dynamic have taken liberties with realism for usability. Like, there are things that are there that aren't right because they're there for the dreaded word gameplay reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, people saying this is the gold standard. But then the thing is that I don't think it brings the level down. It's like if you don't, if you don't want to fly it, don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like the idea of it infecting, and throwing the rulebook away, and then suddenly we end up with, that heavy lifter from Halo in DCS that they put in the Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I can see
fun.
both sides of argument. Yeah, I can see both sides of the argument. But like, I think the F-35 would be a big cash injection, and all the stuff that ED are wanting to do. It's all really expensive stuff. Takes lots of people, takes lots of salaries, and they need to bring the pennies in. And an obscure Eastern European, ground attack aircraft or whatever, isn't going to do that. It's sadly the economic reality we live in, unfortunately.
I think another angle to look at this as well is that this is a little bit of a signal to potential partners to say, we've just bagged the F-35, so if you want to work with us, again, going back to the MCS stuff, if we've bagged the F-35, that's a notch on the bedpost, isn't it? Effectively, it's a way to say, look what we've bagged. So if they want to court, another manufacturer or another partner or whatever, just having that in your folio is going to look really, really good. That's the way I'm also looking at it as well, even away from the customer base of DCS. So I think it does that. I just see this as, and maybe you'll get the reference, Dot, but it's like if you want to get someone into like heavy metal, you don't start with like Pig Destroyer, do you? You start with Green Day and then Offspring and then Metallica. You don't go straight into like death metal. You're just gonna scare them away.
Sugar on them.
Yeah. So it's like the argument about FC Flaming Cliffs and stuff. Like, I'm like, if you don't like it,
it's a gateway drug.
Yeah, but the flight models are still great. They've always said that the flight models have been fantastic. It's just simplified elsewhere. So as long as it flies roughly all right and it doesn't do anything. And at the end of the day, I mean, people keep worrying about multiplayer. I promise you, like multiplayer servers, they'll just not include it if they think it's like ridiculous. So I think most people probably, if they're going to do the F-35, they're probably going to be doing single player stuff with it as well, because people forget how big the single player market
Well, yeah.
is way bigger than the multiplayer market, like
Yeah,
tenfold.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not chicken little with this. I'm the same. You want to make sure that they do a good job, and you hope it doesn't change their outlook on things. The only way I would say is if that bar, right? So you've got the realism bar, right? The study level bar, right? And it's really high. You have to admit, DCS is it's best we've ever had.
Yeah.
If that bar goes down like 5% in realism, but that means we get way more airframes. There's a little bit of guesswork because let's be honest, there's already going to be a lot of guesswork with these things.
Mhm.
They're not going to have detailed documents on link 16. No fucking way. They're never going to get that access. So if that bar goes down, but they know roughly how it works, right? And if, from my perspective as a flight sim enthusiast, as long as it behaves properly, it's like the whole EW issue, isn't it? Electronic warfare. They're never going to map right. But if the effect of EW is correct, that's all that matters when you're sat in that cockpit with your headset on going, Fox 3. That's all you care about at that stage.
Yeah.
And so that's all it needs to be. Is it needs to behave correctly. And then if you pop the hood and it's just a monkey with his pair of cymbals going whatever, that's good enough. It's just I need to feel like when I'm doing it, it's working. So I think if that realism bar drops, this is the trade-off, isn't it? You don't want it to drop too much, but if it drops 5-10%, but that means that opens up a whole load of things, like maybe they'll do a variant of the SU-27 that we never would have got otherwise. I'm okay with that. It's just I don't want that trade-off to be too much. I think most people feel the same. They don't want the age-old thing. You don't want it to turn into War Thunder or Ace Combat or anything like that.
No.
But it's about that balance, and I think the people who consider DCS like the pinnacle, that will never be more realistic, I think they're fooling themselves, because there's a lot of stuff already that's guesswork.
Yeah,
and there's already stuff that doesn't behave correctly.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we're now going way back to the start of DCS when we sort of transitioned out of Flaming Cliffs into DCS, and the A10 came along, and everybody was kind of going, "There's something funny about the point of view in the cockpit." And people were like, no, it's totally real. It's modeled down to the nearest millimeter. All the angles are exactly right, the angles that it's covering. And even ED chimed in on this and said, yes, it's totally right. And then lo and behold, when VR came along, the pilot's point of view was about a foot down and like 3 inches off the dash. And the reason why it was done that way, in my opinion, was because it was a concession to gameplay, because it let you see the HUD and the instrument panel in one 16:9 monitor. So they fudged it. And those little fudges are all over DCS.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, okay, we may be comparing apples to oranges with this thing, because I think all of the F-35 is going to be a fudge, but I don't think it will necessarily be as fudged as people think, because I firmly believe there's something behind them doing the F-35. I don't think they've just gone, yeah, it'll be cool, let's do that. There's a reason. And I'm sure that they will try and do their best with it. And maybe the reason is because they need a big draw and they need the money. Do we know, is this I've either missed it or overlooked it. Is this a third party, or is this ED themselves doing
this
it?
This is ED.
Yeah, see, which makes me think that it's some kind of contractual thing, that there's something in the background here. Again, wild speculation.
it kind of touching on that, Yogi was asking if we think that they're lifting the F-35 from Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Now, funnily enough, that was developed by India Foxed Echo, who are a partner of Eagle Dynamics. So I think we can safely say no, they are not lifting that work. Also, I have to say that F-35, it's not terrible, but it's basically completely guesswork as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
It's also an F-35B. Whereas ED are making an F-35A, so it's a different aircraft. In any case,
Colin Kelly making the point: unless you're a real life fighter pilot, how would you know it's wrong? You don't know what you don't know. That's quite a true statement. The other thing as well, and again, I think it's to echo what you've said, John, is that if the effect is reasonably correct, and if there's like any kind of cascading failures that fall out of that, if that's correct, then it's doing its job. As a user of the product, it's doing its job. You know, I mean, I'm going to step into a different product, but the Phoenix A320 for Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Oh yeah,
Right, amazing product. Like they've simulated the voltage draws on all the light bulbs in the cockpit. So if you know, if you blow a bulb in the cockpit, it affects the electrical system in the way that it does. But the thing is they've abstracted under the hood, they've abstracted that, you know, and it's like and as long as you see the effect, you know, then it's doing its job. It's like, you know, we don't have to simulate electrons flowing around a circuit to do that. It's the effect of it. But I do see both sides of the argument. I can see the idea of it infecting DCS, but I don't think it will be as bad as people think.
I have seen, people have been rather divided by this. Yeah, being worried about the full fidelity experience being diminished somewhat. Just to give my point of view very quickly, I'm psyched for it. I would definitely like to fly it. But if I see some videos and it looks like super obviously like gamified or fudged, then my interest is going to drop like a stone.
Yeah, same.
But you know, if it looks even sort of mostly what I would expect it to be in real life, then I'm interested. I'm on board.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I am. Yeah. So let's take a little look at the this nice summary that our very own John Bloor put together of the 2025 and beyond video, and let's just make our way through the list and you know, maybe give our kind of final comments on these. We started off seeing the dynamic campaign with logistics lines. People have been asking if we think this is the actual interface in the game. My position is no. I seriously doubt that it is. I think this is a visualization for the purposes of the video. Nonetheless, very psyched, and I think that's going to be a biggie. And we're expecting to see this year. I think all three of us have said. Emphasis on the ground units. We saw a lot of armored vehicles. We saw the brand new soldiers that they're intending to bring into the game, all of which looked absolutely amazing. We saw the new fog system, of course. This is, I think, the current iteration, actually. It does look amazing, but I think it's what we already have in game. Potentially with new explosions. I think you might be right there. And Tricker said the same thing. He thought some of those effects were new. And the NVG effects, I can't tell if those are what's in game right now or not. They do look bloody good either way.
I think that's in game, because I think that to get that Z depth and depth of field, like that's really hard to post process. Yeah, like you can do it, but like it would make more sense that it's coming out of engine.
Yeah. That's a fair point, yeah. We saw our first shots of the full fidelity F100D Super Sabre in action, and it looked really good. Of course, we only see it for split seconds at a time, but the way it's maneuvering looks convincing to me. It looks like there's a flight model going on there.
Yeah, the nice. Super Sabre. So Jet, I think it was Jep just called it out. Good evening, gents. 35, I'm on the fence now, but F100, that's different. Lol. Yes, another aircraft that can come up with new and interesting ways of killing you. Just if you don't know what that's about, just type Sabre dance into YouTube or Google.
Yes. Tog pointing out the site that we saw. I thought this as well. I thought I recognized it. It's the backup main gun site. So it's not even the main site. For some reason, they were showing us, because it had the funnel for the shot drop.
For ranging. Yeah.
So anyway, new infantry models and animations. We saw the Saab Draken AI model. That was really nice to see, and that's one that Heatblur had been promising us for a while now. We saw the full fidelity Eurofighter Typhoon of the German Air Force, but no interior shots, and this is something that a lot of people have been pointing out. We actually have never really seen, we've seen stills, but we've never seen any kind of panning or video internal shots of the Eurofighter. If you exclude that original trailer that they put out, which I'm certain is not an engine.
Yeah.
I think that was a cinematic.
We've seen the helmet-mounted HUD stuff, I think, but
also a cinematic, I believe. I don't think any of that was in game.
You reckon?
I think so. But that's just me. I think it's not in game. I don't think we've ever seen anything interior in the Typhoon that was in-game. It's all been renders and cinematics so far.
Yeah.
We've got the full fidelity MiG-29A 9.12 with interiors. However, I would like to call out that we've never seen any of the displays. We've not seen the HUD.
Yeah.
We've not seen that heads down display. So I kind of feel like the displays are not ready in the MiG-29 yet. Although the cockpit looks bloody good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just needs
C1
more dirt and more paint rubbed off it.
We got the C-130 with cargo, interiors, wide-angle HUD, and MOAB. Yeah, we saw a lot of the C-130. That's really good to see.
Tasty.
Yeah, it's very, very tasty. We saw the F-14B brackets U upgrade with the Sparrowhawk HUD, the VDI, PTID, and CDU, JDAMs. They've confirmed the JDAMs. The DFCS, I don't know about. I haven't seen that confirmed anywhere.
So the DFCS, even though a lot of people attribute it to the D model, there were select A and Bs that had that fitted to them. And apparently it was supposed to make carrier landings a lot easier. It was supposed to be because it uses spoiler-ons, doesn't it? The F-14, and it was very much the reason why it's called the Turkey is when it's coming in on its approach, it's like got all its flaps and spoiler-ons kind of deployed, and it has that. Was it the DLC? What is it called?
That's right.
Magic Carpet. Was it called Magic Carpet?
Yeah, and it just kind of uses that system. Apparently, that DFCS made that whole thing. Like, is it the Tomcat podcast guys? There was a D model guy he'd flown with the DFCS, and he was like, "Oh, dude, it's that and the HUD, the upgraded HUD." He said, "Will make it made it infinitely better," because he started off on like A or B models, then moved to the D, and he was like, "Oh my god, it's like," he said, "it's just so much easier." He said he was a guy who didn't even look at the HUD, and then he started using the HUD, and then was like, "Oh, this is infinitely better."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, apparently some of the A and Bs did actually get the DFCS as well. So it's up to them. It's whether they got the data, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm right thinking that there's a control on the stick that is basically like up and down. That as you're coming in,
it's a thumb wheel.
Yeah, and like it's like, oh, I'm too high, so you can. Yeah, it's.
Where are we? It's this little I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a little wheel here.
Yeah.
That's your DLC wheel there. Yeah, if people can see it. It's black on black, but it's that little nubbins there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it is very cool, and actually, I've always had the same thought about landing the F-14. It kind of feels like setting up a 737 to land, because you have all the same kind of thing.
The same size.
Yeah, it's almost the same size. So yeah, got all your feathers out on landing. We saw the Berlin/Germany map. You also say here in brackets, John, and Nevada. What's that reference?
I spotted Nevada. I spotted Nevada.
The F-16s. And it looked, again, I can't tell if it's the lighting. It could also be one of the. That could have been Iraq for all we know. I don't know, but it looked very Nevada-ish. It looked very Nellis-y to me, and it looked very good. And I was like, for a second, I thought, ooh, you know.
It gets brought up in the Q&A, sort of.
Yeah, it does.
So, yeah.
Oh, and actually, Eagle Wing's just saying the same thing. What's up with the Nevada map in the video? Are we getting an upgrade to the map?
Yeah.
Okay, and actually, Test the Pest is saying the Fulda Gap Germany map will be huge, with parts of Poland, France, and
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
Oh, okay, that's an unusual spelling for Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So apparently, that's going to be rather large.
Well, this comes back to our point. I mean, I don't know if we just talk about this now or we get into it with Q&A. Because we saw Berlin. The Fulda Gap is like a heck of a long way south from Berlin.
Yeah,
but if the map is huge, if it is that big, then it covers it all. You know, so
that's my
like
my
I was
assumption.
I was looking at the sort of coverage of the Iraq map, and trying to sort of superimpose that over Germany and thinking, maybe we'll get both.
Yeah. I think that the tech can do it, because these newer Afghanistan and Iraq maps are enormous. So apparently the tech can do it.
Right, lads, let's buy 20 SSDs. I'll remortgage the house.
Exactly.
We're going to put all this stuff.
Yeah. We then had the full fidelity F-15C MSIP2 And you're talking here, John, about is it the APG 63 or the 70? They do say in the FAQ. What one do they say in the FAQ again? Oh no, you're right. That's exactly in the original version of the FAQ. It said the 63. They seem to have updated it to say or the 70. So that's interesting. I read an earlier version. PAX, JTIDS, JHICMUS, and AIM-9X. That's going to be very, very nice. It's going to be an absolute killer in BVR.
Oh yeah. It's other. I think the only more powerful radar, if I remember rightly, of that era was the Tomcat. I think that was the only one that had slightly more powerful. Other than that, it was one of those powerful radars. What was cool was in the forums already, and I actually quite like this because they've kind of done this with the Kiowa. People have been requesting that maybe that they do a version, an 80s sort of 90s version, and you can maybe in like a tick box for the mission editor kind of disable some of the other bits, because apparently visually it's going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then you're basically just disabling stuff, and I think that's quite cool actually. I mean, just to have those systems where you could turn off the JHIMX or AIM-9X or whatever.
Yeah,
it's easy enough to do. Yeah.
Funnily enough, this is exactly what Razbam were intending to do with the Strike Eagle. It was gonna come in different eras, and you could like flip which era you wanted, and the equipment would change.
Yeah.
So yeah, just made myself sad. We then of course have full fidelity F-35A with possible B and C variants coming in the future, as per the FAQ. I am psyched for that. I am psyched for that. I want it to be right. And the thing is, this is ED we're talking about. They'll probably make it right. You know, they have the same focus that most of us do, really, when it comes to this. Like, you look at the F-16, you look at the F-18, you look at the Apache. They've already been doing it right. I think we can probably trust them to continue to do it right.
Yeah, on a sufficiently long enough timeline. To get it right, and I think they sort of balance the requirements of the platform, business requirements. I mean, obviously that has to come into it, and but then with the aspects of realism, I don't think the sky is falling with it.
No.
Like, I think, John, you were right. Chicken Little is a good thing to say, but we will see. We will see, because this time will tell, and I think, oh hell, it'll be a long time.
Most likely, yeah. They probably.
I think they've already said that neither the 15 or the 35 are coming this year. You know, they're saying it's going to be 2026. So
both are expected 2026 currently, but that could change.
Yeah, I think that's super optimistic.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you look at the F-15C. I think it's doable for them to deliver that in 2026, because they've already done X amount of it for the Flaming Cliffs version. But when it comes to the F-35, when in the case of the F-15, they say that it's already under development. In the case of the F-35, they're really just starting now. For them to say that they could deliver an aircraft as complex as the F-35 in 2026, I feel is impossible. However, they could be taking the same approach as they took with the Apache, where they deliver a kind of basic version and they start bolting things on as they go.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is okay, like, you know, in terms of division of labor, and here's me wild ass speculating from the little bits of knowledge that I've got. The visual aspect of it is like a fraction of the job. The job is the systems and the engineering. Because, I mean, you know, you go and 3D scan an aircraft, clean up the topology, go pay an artist to go and do some textures, you're done, you know. And like, yes, that's a big job, and I'm not dismissing it. Like, it is a big and important part of producing a module, and you know, they're very talented people that does it. But the timeline of doing that is you know, it's not massively long. But the systems engineering and the coding aspects of that, that's a whole, because that's where the problems are. That's where you're going to get the bugs. That's where you're going to get the things that you're going to have to iterate on and do stuff. So, like, we can see these great visuals and goes, oh, that looks really, really complete. And it's like, well, yeah, the model is, but that's like a fraction of the effort that goes into this. So, you know, we can't take too much from sort of looking at nice pretty screenshots of stuff and going, oh, that looks nearly finished, because I can go on Turbo Squid and get a really nice looking model with some really nice textures and go, oh, look, it's nearly finished. But when it's just two tin cans and a piece of string inside, that's not a module. So I think it's going to be ages before we see it. Even the F-15, I think it's going to be a while, because yes, they've got the Flaming Cliff stuff, but plugging all that into full fidelity systems, oh god, that's so much work.
And actually, and inversely, so I'll just say this real quick. Inversely, just to make your point, when we were looking at the F-100 the other day, and we were looking at their progress tracker, it was mostly code done, and like the art was behind. And I was like, "Oh, I reckon we're going to get F-100 sooner than later," because, like you said, that's in the big. Yeah, you got to rig it up. Don't get me wrong, and you got to get all that stuff done, but. I really, you just need to get everything working right and looking right, and then you can release, and then you can improve. I mean, look at even the F-14 by Heatblur. They've improved bits and pieces, and they've added the wing vapors and all these sorts of things as they've gone on. You can release without that sort of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, fair point. And then we also got brief shots of the F-4U Corsair, the F-6F Hellcat, and Tornado IDS. Sadly getting blown up at some point, I think.
No, sad.
Well, it's a German one, so that's all right. I don't mind too much.
Wasn't a DR1.
Yeah. So, next we have the FAQs for said announced aircraft, and the very first one being the F-15C. So if we take a quick look at what ED say, why have they chosen the F-15C? Well, the F-15C has been a pillar of the United States and other nations' air superiority for decades. While the F-15C is featured on Lock On, and then in Flaming Cliff series, it's now time for a full fidelity simulation of this legendary fighter. A full fidelity F-15C will join the F-14, F-16C, and FA-18C to round out US's fourth generation fighters in DCS. It will also serve as a great counterpart to the upcoming MiG-29A. So, what version are we getting of the F-15C? Actually, John already covered this for us, but it's the Multi-Stage Improvement Program 2 version, as operated by the US Air Force in the early 200s, they say here. I'm assuming they mean 2000s. I don't think we had the F-15 back in those days. This will feature either the AN.
I mean, it would have royally stuffed the Romans if we had.
Those Carthaginians, they would have known.
Yes, they would have noticed. We're getting the AN/APG 63 V1 or the AN/APG 70 radar. Is to be determined which one. Programmable armament control system packs, the JTIDS data link with situational display, the SIT, and joint helmet mounted queuing system with AIM-9X. Will it just be an updated Flaming Cliffs F-15C? They seem very upset by this question and say no, not at all. Certainly not. While flapping their chops. Apparently it's going to be an entirely new external model and cockpit. They'll be completely rebuilt to meet 2025 graphics standards. The avionics, sensor, and weapon systems will be at the highest level of fidelity with a fully interactive cockpit. While the flight model will be based on Flaming Cliffs version, it will be further improved. Please note the Flaming Cliffs version will remain unchanged. When will it be available? It's going to start in 2025, and the release goal is 2026.
Release goal.
Yeah.
Goal.
All of this is subject to change, and they'll update the FAQ if there is a change.
Be right back. Just need a quick wee, by the way. Carry on.
No problem. Okay. How much is it going to cost? The short answer is they don't know. What weapons will be included? Everything that the F-15C had in the mid-2000s. So this includes the internal gun, the AIM-9L, M, P3, and X models, the AIM-7F, M, MH, and P models, and the AIM-120B and C. As this is based on the US F-15C, it solely carries air-to-air weapons. And what countries? It's going to be the version operated by the US Air Force, but they will include liveries for several countries, including Japan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. So you can pretend.
Makes sense.
You can cosplay as those countries.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good. Rudy, I'm fine with today's module selection. Hell, I'm still learning subsystems of the FA-18C, and I started in 2023. Yeah, actually, the Hornet is fantastically complete and complex, so it's probably all you need. Jumping into the F-35, it also has an FAQ here as well. Why the F-35A? The F-35 is rapidly becoming the backbone of tactical combat aviation of many countries. Its combination of low observability, sensor fusion, and advanced sensors has brought fifth-generation combat aviation to today's battlefield. We chose to simulate this aircraft based on its fame and the large number of both combat aviation enthusiasts and more casual virtual pilots who are eager to experience its capabilities in the modern virtual battlefield.
Yeah.
What version? First release is the F-35A. We may later also offer the F-35B vertical takeoff and landing version and F-35C aircraft carrier catapult versions, but this is yet to be determined. They then go on to talk about how they're going to simulate it with the lack of documents. We've kind of already covered this, so I'll read their last paragraph very quickly. Our F-35A will not be based on guesswork, watching air shows, Wikipedia, or anything like that. Rather, it's being designed in relation to credible data that we feel very confident will provide a good presentation of what it is to operate this aircraft in the context of study-level flight simulation game for the entertainment market. So they make a they make a good point. When will it be available? Development will start in earnest in 2025 with a release goal of 2026. This is subject to change. How much will it cost? Short version is they don't know. What weapons will be included? They're planning an F-35A from the 2015 time frame. So that means it's going to get gun, AIM-9X, AIM-120, GBUs 38, 39, 31, 12, 16, 10, 24, AGM-158s, AGM-154s, all the CBUs, and the Mark 80 series clusters. But this list is subject to change. What countries will be included? It's going to be the US Air Force's version, but they're going to create liveries so you can cosplay for Australia, Norway, Netherlands, Italy, Denmark, Belgium, Japan, South Korea, and Israel. More to be added later. When I initially read that list, I was kind of like, oh, what? No RAF? And then I remembered that we only have the F-35C.
We bought the wrong one.
Yeah, we bought the other one. So that's why. At first, I was kind of like, why not us? Why are we not in it? But we don't have these ones. How will you model its low observability characteristics? This will be based on open source data and account for radar, angle, range, and external stores and open bays. How will you simulate the flight model given the lack of flight performance data? This will be derived from a combination of open source performance charts, public F-35A pilot accounts of unique handling characteristics to test against, and computational fluid dynamic studies. Will this not unbalance DCS? Yawn, who cares? Why do people keep asking this stupid question? It's supposed to be a simulation game. It's not supposed to be balanced. Some things are better than others.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when Meteor comes in, if we get Meteor, like, that's like nobody on any map is safe.
Even people not on the same map as you aren't safe.
I don't know. I find that whole thing a very silly question. It's like, oh, what about my balance? It's like, it's the job of the mission maker to balance the mission. Yeah. You can't balance the game. The game has World War II fighters in it.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to nerf F-16s because the Spitfire can't take them out?
It's interesting. The first paragraph, though, it kind of sort of echoes what I said a bit about, you know, the realities of, well, they've got to bring people in and they've got to use something that isn't niche to do that, because where they're heading with their technology is it's just so expensive, and there's got to be pennies to pay for it, and you know,
absolutely,
you know, that's the reality of it. Yeah.
I really like Mangashi's comment here. Open source means War Thunder forums, right?
Thunder forums.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent.
Yeah. Tom Star is saying the F-35 gets lots of hate from quote-unquote hardcore players, but I feel like it'd be a good addition. Anyone running a multiplayer server feeling it is too unbalanced can just remove it from play. Exactly. Let's just enjoy the aircraft and forget balance from Eagle Wings. Also, a very good take. Yes.
Yeah.
So we got this comment from Wags a little bit later on Discord. So he was asked any updates to the planned ATC rework, and he responded. The design in conjunction with both USN and USAF fighter pilots is done. The big items are designing an all-new UI for all radio comms so that we can put the nested menu system to bed finally. The other big item is determining how we'll do the voice comms, being AI or human voiceover. Both have their pros and cons. Whilst doing ATC, we also want to revisit the AWACS, AAR, flight comms, and JTAG. So that was something that our boy Wag said.
Yeah.
Next, we also got some updates from Avion on their DCS Kefir. We haven't really heard anything from these guys for quite some time, so it's really cool to see that they are still working on this. Dear pilots and friends, we wish you a happy new 2025 year and are excited to humbly present a summary of 2024 from Avion Simulations. We know some of you have been eagerly awaiting this, and we thank you for all your support and engagement in our Discord community. So, systems. The systems components were developed with real physics logic, simulating the behavior of electricity, fluids, and mechanics as they would in real-world scenarios. It's all about those geeky intricacies for a truly authentic experience. We integrated the plane system's primary and backup channels using the aforementioned physicalized components. I don't think that's a word. Additionally, we have developed specifically tailored testing tools to ensure that each component and accordingly each system meets expectations for well-defined behaviors, enhancing reliability. With regards to the flight model, we've been implementing a flight model based on actual wind tunnel data and are complementing it with complex CFD simulation to ensure accuracy. We're excited to announce that it's currently in the pre-alpha stage and taking shape. And when it comes to art, this year we refactored our entire cockpit to bring it up to current DCS standards and to fully integrate it with DCS. This means everything is clickable and has functionality linked to the systems it represents. We don't want to give away too much, so this is just a taste of what we've achieved. We can't wait to share more information with you when we're ready. And then we got these pictures, which are... They look like out-of-game renders to me, untextured.
Yeah, that's a claim. Yeah.
But they look nice.
Yeah.
I guess this is the kind of thing that's going to have to get, like, I forget the correct terminology, but they're going to have to, like, cull some of these triangles and then bake in stuff. But it looks very, very cool.
Because you can cosplay this effectively as a... I mean, if you really want to get a bit soft around the edges of Mirage 3, but you can cosplay like a Nasha or a Kafir or anything.
Yeah.
You could actually use this for the, what do you call it, like Falklands, couldn't you? Because that's what the Argentinians were using for at least a bit.
Oh, true enough.
Yeah.
Was this what they referred to as a dagger? Was the Argentinians called the dagger?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're super similar. There's about 3 or 4 like sub variants of the Kafir and Nash. One's a Nasha, Kafir, dagger. You know, it's all and roughly the same kind of thing.
Yeah, they were all derivatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. So yeah, nice to get an update on the Kafir. I'm kind of interested in this one. I like these aircraft from this era. They're interesting to operate. So this is going to be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of 3.5, isn't it? If that makes sense. It was these kind of third gens that they were kind of trying to drag into the fourth gen, just like we've got the 4.5s. You know, I kind of love, like, my era is when you get like a third or fourth gen and they maybe have like one MFD in it, but they just or like a slightly updated HUD, like the Sparrowhawk F-14. That's my jam. That's where I love it, because you've got the modern abilities, but you've still got grime and dirt and steam gauges and all that kind of stuff. It's just I love it.
Yeah. From the sort of, you know, certainly from UK and France perspective, like what they did with the Jaguar. You know, like when they brought in the Navwas, because before it was a fully analog system with gears and cogs and bits in it, and when it went wrong, like, the procedure was to kick it. And then they brought in the electric, and then you had like the one sort of MFD in it, and it just that's I'm right there with you. That's my jam. Yeah,
it's pretty damn cool. And then the last item that we have, was the Q&A with our boy Daddy Wags.
Yeah. This I mean, it's great that they're doing it, but it was very softball. You know, it was very kind of nothing really controversial, not getting into any meat and potatoes. It was a bit like, so what biscuit do you like? Do you like jam?
Of course he likes jam. Everybody likes jam.
Yeah. It was a little bit like there was nothing controversial, but there was like a couple of little nuggets in there that was like, oh, that's interesting.
Because we had this one as a company. How did Eagle Dynamics start? How many people are in the team? Do you think the team's the right size? I was surprised to hear how many it is, because he claimed 170.
So was I. Yeah, so was I. That's a big old company for what they're doing, you know, developing a niche flight simulation game. That's a lot of folk.
That is a lot of people. So yeah, that was the one that kind of surprised me. Also, could you tell us more about the studio? What different teams exist and what are they working on? And then he said, we've got people working on the core and people working on different aircraft modules. There was nothing really very surprising about that one. We kind of already knew this answer. Could you shed some light
on a great face earlier, by the way, as well?
Sorry, I just need because Tog, Daddy Wags.
Yes, indeed. Can you shed some light into the decision-making process that goes into features for DCS? I actually don't even remember what he said here. I probably passed out at this point. What's the process for selecting an aircraft type to develop? What factors are included to determine if a module would be achievable? Actually, I can't remember his answer to that question either.
Yeah, this is all the kind of softball fluff that, like, we don't care. It's the interesting stuff happens later.
Yeah. They ask him if he intends to make a first-person shooter, to which he said no. But actually, at this point, he did say that they were going to improve the armor simulation and things like combined arms. So this is kind of what we already knew and expected.
Yeah, and like, because we were seeing these new animations, like, I mean, there's just got to be a reason for it,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I guess things like Apache is the reason for it, because obviously, Apache, a lot of what the Apache does is when you've got troops in contact and all that kind of stuff, and you want to see a realistic representation of that. But yeah, like, poor old combined arms, it needs some love.
It does. It certainly does. Relax with Griffin. Why won't any devs create a Sipcat Jaguar GR3A? Yeah, I agree. I would love one. I would love one.
I would love one too.
Quick reminder, everybody, if you've made it this far, please, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, and comment. I really appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
But especially those of you who do. People who don't subscribe, I appreciate just slightly less. Anyway.
But only slightly.
Only slightly. Yeah. I still like you.
Yeah. We'd still buy you a beer.
Yes. What has been your most challenging or exciting DCS module, technology, or feature to develop, and why? I think he kind of gave a non-answer to this one, as I recall, and he just kind of said, "Oh well, the clouds took a lot of work and the dynamic campaign and stuff like that."
I think he finished it off with like, what's been the most difficult thing? Is communicating it to you guys. It was something like that, and I was like, okay.
Fair play.
So it was like going, the most difficult thing is just not being able to love you fully. Didn't it?
Yeah.
What do you personally think Eagle Dynamics does well, and what could it do better? I don't remember what he said to this one either, but I remember he said that they could communicate better, which of course is true.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
What else have we got? What do you think the community does well, and what could it do better? Actually, I liked with this one that he called out the community mod developers, because I think that is super important. So he basically said the simulation would not be anywhere near where it is today without the people who make all the extra community content. And I think he's absolutely right there.
Yeah, 100%. His next part was fairly diplomatic.
Yes. He said that some members of the community are dicks.
Yeah,
pretty much.
basically. Yeah. And he's not wrong.
Stop being offensive neckbeard twats, I think was what he said. We're real people.
That is, in fact, not what he said. But if he had said
Yeah.
that, I would have agreed with him.
Yeah. 100%.
Reading between the lines of his diplomacy that's what he said.
Yeah. Can I say two things though? Right. First of all, I meant to say this earlier. The beyond for the 2025 and beyond video. I think everyone could agree. Is it Glowing Amram who does all the cinematic? Like their beyond videos they're better than fucking trailers for films. They're absolutely exceptional.
He's a master. He's a master. Yeah.
So fucking good. And I don't know if it was Glowing Amram, but dude, the fucking F4 trailer with the Who, I was like, this is better than most film trailers. Like it blew that out of the water. Just so
like
good.
without giving too much away about what I about real life is I work in that industry, and his stuff makes me feels like I've got my crayons and my paper, and I'm like, I'm gonna like he's just a master. Like
he is.
He makes me feel really bad about my work.
Yeah, he's
so
really
good.
He's so good. The second thing I'll say is I'm glad that we're seeing Wags do these QAs, because the problem ED has is they don't really have a face for their company.
Yeah.
And there's so much. I used to work for a company where the owners would show their face initially when they started the business a lot in their marketing, and then they kind of backed away. And what was really interesting is we almost immediately started getting feedback to say, where have they gone? We love seeing them. And it was a personal element. And it was a British company, and because we dealt with stuff internationally, a lot of people wanted to hear the British accents and see these people, and see all this stuff. And I think what Wags is he's a face to the company. And I think he's actually, we joke about, hey everyone, Wags here, and we joke about the very soft voice, and some people say it sends them to sleep. But I actually think he's a massive asset to them.
I agree.
And I think that them using him to do these Q&As, and he was doing there was a period, was it last year or year before, he was doing quite a lot of podcasts, and I was like, that's a really good idea. Because he was, and I think them using him, if I can say any feedback, is this is a step in the right direction. They said in this Q&A, I think he said something along the lines of like, the difficulty they have is balancing expectations and keeping people informed, because they don't want to overhype what they're talking about and talk about it too much and give the wrong idea. But at the same time, they need to communicate and be more transparent. I would say if you have a regular, every say quarter, they did a quarterly update, a DCS quarterly update, a bit like these newsletters, but
that would
with
be
a video.
enough,
I think that'd be enough. And then you also don't overpromise things, and people get to realize it's regular. Also, he doesn't have to overcommit himself. He's not making 10 billion videos all the time. He's not knackering himself out. And that's what I think they should do. But I love the fact that we're seeing Wags, and I think this is a step in the right direction. And I hope they do more of this.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree because I mean, if we go back 2 years ago, a very large YouTuber whose name I have completely forgotten, and I'm very sorry to that YouTuber. They did a video called DCS, A Beautiful Mess.
Was this Ian Christie?
I can't remember, but it caused a big stir. And because one of the things that he called out was their communication. And how ED interact with the marketplace, and it caused such a stir. And it clearly must have got right to the top of ED, because they then unbanned a whole raft of people who had been banned just because like, I don't agree with this, or why aren't the kind of back in the bad old days. I mean, okay, there's not exactly the good days sometimes in ED forums, but back in the really bad old days of the ED forums, I mean, you would get banned just for any form of dissent or starting any kind of discussion.
Yeah.
And they would say, "Oh, well, it was the man who did it," and a lot of times it was, "Well, that's nonsense. That's not why they got banned." Just as I say, just my opinion. And they went back and they went and unbanned a whole bunch of folks, and they really tried to sort of improve how they communicated. So yeah, this is another example of that. And I think, yeah, sort of having some kind of face on social media. I mean, it raises awareness, to use the awful term. But I do feel like it's great, but can we get a bit more meat and potatoes, Wax? Because this was a bit softball.
It was a bit, although he has committed to doing another one next month.
Well, he's got 25 more questions.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a Crosscheck is the YouTuber.
Crosscheck, that was it. It was great video, fantastic. But it caused utter ructions. And ED listened, so
Yes. Are you planning to update or rework the early maps using the newer technologies? He said yes to this one, but he did say that it was going to be like in a few years' time. Oh, wow. Tarka Chops. Oh, thank you very much for the contribution. That's extremely kind. Thank you for taking your time to go through this, gents. And nice to see Dot Chuckles is a real human being.
Yes, I'm not actually just a myth. But, yeah.
So yeah, in short, he said yes to this, but not right now. Are there maps in the works for? And then people gave a whole list of stuff. Yeah, I don't remember what he said to this.
Well, we're starting to get into Central Europe.
Yeah.
So he started sort of talking about, because he did the thing about, I think by the time this comes out, we'll have announced it, and he was talking about the Germany map.
Yes.
But he specifically said Germany map. So this comes back to the question. It's just like, well, is it Berlin? Is it just Berlin and the surrounding areas, or is it Berlin and the fault? Like, we don't know from this because he just said the Germany map. But Germany map sounds quite big, so we can hope.
It's a decent sized place, yes. And then the question about Cold War era jets. What can you tell us about maps to match those? I think he said they wanted to do Vietnam. And
Vietnam
also,
is a big one. Yeah.
But he did mention that their terrain tech needs big updates before it would work.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's to do with the trees.
I think it is the trees.
Yeah, because it's like if I remember the Marianas map when that came out, like it's like tiny islands in water, but it chugged, and it was because of the trees. And like, well, what's the thing that Vietnam has a lot of?
They have the occasional tree, I believe.
Yeah, might be some trees.
And then we heard about Folder Gap. But he kind of said these other ones with these other eras. He was kind of saying, third parties might take those. So there was that one.
Reliance Griffin was saying it was Ian Christie. He was the CEO of a company. So we talk about this. I know that video, but this was a video from beforehand. Crosscheck. But I know the video that you're talking about there from Ian Christie. That is also a very good video.
It's also a very good video.
But no, this was Crosscheck. I think it's DCS, a beautiful mess. I think that's what it was called.
Yes, I remember that one. Can we have expanded maps instead of new maps? Is work underway on unifying maps to bridge existing map islands into the same mission?
Yeah, now we're getting into the world map stuff.
Correct. Yes. And he did say that they wouldn't really be able to expand existing maps because there's like the terrain tech changes all the time. So it would kind of, you'd have to recreate the map if you wanted to expand it. But then he did touch on the world map. But he mentioned that the world map is kind of a massive project that is probably still at least a couple of years out.
Yeah. I mean, he mentions as well that, obviously they don't have the resources of somebody like Microsoft because, I mean, the yardstick that everybody's going to hold it up against is Flight Sim
2020 or 2024.
And 2024. Because, like, other bones about how that recent variation works with streaming and stuff, leave all that aside. Like, what they've done in terms of creating a digital twin of the entire planet is fairly damn impressive.
Yes.
And that's taken a heck of a lot of money. And I just can't see ED being able to replicate that.
No.
Like, it's just, no. So I think we're all going to have to temper our expectations. And I think what it will be is that, well, I can now take off from, I can now start a sortie in Cyprus and go fly over to Iraq. And whilst I'm up at 35,000 feet, taking a drink off a tanker, I can look down and go, oh, cool, you know. And that's, I think, is as good as it's going to get. And that will still be great. That'll still be cool, you know.
I have a theory. If anyone here has played Sea Power, that basically simulates the entire world, but it's it's basic. It's good enough. It has various what do you call it, biomes, roughly speaking, and most of the battles tend to be at least coastal. Maybe it goes about 50 miles inland or whatever, but it's very basic. But it does the job, and it's for Sea Power, it's more than good enough.
Sea Power is
great.
That
game's going to expand as well. I think what we'll see, if you want to see like what's the litmus test, not the litmus test, but what's the bar, the upper bar of what we're going to see is going to be MSFS level. That's the high end, and I think it's going to be somewhere between Sea Power and that. So if where it lays in that, you know, that Overton window, you could say, is going to be interesting. But where is it going to drop? Is it going to be closer to Sea Power, or is it going to be, because I suspect that the way that they're going to build this is they're going to be using some sort of algorithm that places stuff.
He actually said that.
That's what he said.
Oh, there you go.
It's leveraging AI and elevation data to place objects.
Because there's
so
no way
exactly
that
the route they're going down.
They don't have the team to be able to do it any other way. They have to automate it.
And I mean that's how Flight Sim was done. You know, I think it was
all
Black Shark AI. Yeah, did it, and then they went in and fixed up where it made mistakes. And then obviously the difference is that Microsoft's got teams of hundreds of people that can go in and do that, you know. So yeah, I think we're just really going to have to temper our expectations with the world map.
Sure.
You know, but it'll still be cool. Like, I like the idea. And like, to get into a question that he's going to talk about where somebody asked about multi-crew bombers, like his response was, yeah, it would be really cool, but like with the map sizes that they've got, it doesn't make sense, because you know, like a B1B, like it's just, well, the mission profile doesn't fit a small map. But then when you've got the world map, it's like, okay, well, you can take off from Cyprus and go and carry out a mission in Iraq, because you know you can do the travel time. And I think that's all that the world map is going to facilitate. I mean, somebody also asked a question about, well, will editors have the tools to make missions anywhere on a map? And he said, well, yes, that's what they want to do. But I think it's going to be it'll be pretty bad. You know, I don't think it'll be that good. But again,
it's going to look like
cool.
It's going to look like Google Maps with buildings and things just dropped on it.
Yeah. But as a way of transitioning from one area to another, brilliant. Like, I can get it. Like big sort of long ass iron butt missions, you know.
Golden
to get from one place to another.
Saying here, you know, if it could use the high detail of existing maps, that would be huge. I think that's absolutely not what it will do. I think what you're going to get is your existing maps will be your high detailed areas, and everything in between will be the world map, which will be very, very low detail. So it will be exactly as you described, Chuck. It'll be a mechanism to travel from one high detail area to another high detail area.
And I think we've got an example of it already in DCS.
We do.
With the Nevada map, because they have modeled elevation out like all the way into California, like beyond Death Valley and all that kind of stuff. And I reckon if you look at that, it will. I think my opinion is it will be that, but a bit better.
Yeah.
With some AI placed objects.
You can even look at the Caucasus map, and the Caucasus map does it as well. It actually has very, very basic elevation data all the way into Turkey. But of course, when you fly over that, it looks terrible. But like
Yeah.
like the ground is brown and the Black Sea is blue. So like there's a landmass.
Yeah.
So you can fly over it, but it's atrocious.
But I mean, at the end of the day, we're speculating. We don't know. Wags himself in this said it's years away.
Yeah, he did.
You know, and I remember they've been talking about this. I want to say I first heard mention of a world map out of Wags's mouth about 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I think
it's entirely possible.
It's sat, yeah, and I think it's sat there on the shelf, and they're now just looking at it. But I mean, it's a massive endeavor. It's a huge thing. Interestingly, there was a question about. We're skipping about, but it's all kind of related to this world map stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question about what they choose, how they choose the criteria for maps.
Yes.
And ultimately, what it came down to is that it's like, is there an active conflict there, or would there have been a potentially big conflict, like the Germany map? Or is it a big training area? And the reason why I bring this up is because somebody in chat has said, I want an ultra realistic UK map so we can fly the Mac Loop. Hell yes. So I think now that we know ED's criteria, we say, can we have South Wales, please? Because it's a big training area.
True enough. Okay, I think we should probably start to wrap up things soon, but let's make our way through these questions and answers. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not really built for talking for this amount of time. But yeah, exactly as you said about the bombers, he was kind of saying, yeah, the world map will unlock that. And then people also say, have you considered adding double seat aircraft like F-16D, FA-18D? And he very much says no. He's kind of like, I don't see what that adds to the simulation. We already have dedicated trainers. Yeah, he kind of poo-poos that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
I think also you're basically creating a product that's going to compete with your own. Why would you do that when you've got, and there's already such a massive overlap? You know, I just don't think they're going to. See, they said the same about the Super Hornet at the moment as well. The only one they would be able to do is an early block, where it's pretty close to a lot of what the C can do. So at least for now, maybe down the future they might, but yeah.
Exactly. And then people poke him for recently saying DCS is a game. So yeah, that was mentioned again. Could you add a save progress to offline missions? And he says yes, they are actually working on that. That is coming.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's really something that they. Excuse me. I think he said that's something they really need for the dynamic campaign. I think that's something they're looking to get in before the dynamic campaign, because he kind of sees it as a prerequisite, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Will ATC communications be improved? And again, he says yes, they've been working on it for some time. Are there any plans to implement a player-operated ATC inside of DCS World? And I don't think he said yes to this one.
Yes, he did.
He did say yes?
He did.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. So, John, you take it, because I've talked far too much.
It sounds like they want to do something a little bit somewhere between VATSIM and something where it sounded like a third-party app or something, where someone could control like a light version or something. Didn't they say something like that? Like some sort of way that someone can easily drop in and do this without having to kind of, you know.
Yeah, it was, if I recall, it was so. What's the app? Bloody hell!
Lot
do we
ATC?
use it? Lot ATC. Yeah, it sounded like Lot ATC, but he was referring is that you could put a ground unit in the sim, and then it would let you interact with voice, and I'm guessing you would get some kind of, you know, radar display. And to my mind, that means if you then take out that ground unit, you lose your ATC and DCI. Like, that would be the logical conclusion to that.
That would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about, will pilot models be more animated in the future? They've already made big strides with this, with the F-16, F-18, and Apache. And you know, he kind of mentions that third-party developers have done a really good job, and they're going to try and meet them. And I think he's almost certainly referring to the Strike Eagle pilot in Wizzo. But he didn't want to say the name that he's not supposed to say.
Yeah.
So there is that. Talk about animated ground crew for airfields, and he said absolutely. And he even made that fateful comment: it should be easier, or at least it should be easier than the supercarrier. He said that they wanted to have a crew chief and a marshaller for airfields, which makes sense. And then someone asked if they're going to change engines, and of course he said no, because there is no other engine that can do the kind of things that they need to be able to do for DCS.
Yeah. Can we just mention one thing that we didn't say about what Wags did? Is he did his very good Nick Gray impression.
Yes.
Well, which was fantastic.
we mentioned that right at the beginning of the near the beginning of the stream.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
It was very impressive. I think we all enjoyed that.
There was one other thing I think we forgot to mention, and I can't remember if it was in the ground crew unit. Somebody asked the question about more animated pilots and things like that. That he did say that was something that they were looking at.
Yes.
So flipping buttons in the cockpit and things like that. So which is quite cool. Like to see that too.
Absolutely.
I reckon also with more side by side aircraft coming, potentially like the A7, and if we ever got an F111 or anything like that, and then also your B1Bs. Sounds silly, but just seeing someone heads turns cool. But if you actually see, sounds silly, all you have to do is, even if it's like Thunderbird style, when someone talks you just see the lip moving. It's these little touches like that, which all that bases off is a decibel reader, doesn't it?
There's a great multiplayer U-boat simulator.
Oh yes,
which is hilarious fun, and I'm just trying to remember the name of it. It's Wolfpack. There you go.
We played it, it was amazing.
We played it, and it's great fun. But like the level of immersion that you get from the basic animations that it has when people operate things and their mouths move as you talk in voice chat. It's super basic, like you say. It's like Thunderbird's flappy jaw stuff, but like you kind of start to ignore it that it's a bit jank, and you really kind of get into it. When you're super into playing it. So I agree. I think it doesn't have to be. It just needs to be a bit better. I don't think it needs to be a massive exercise.
All of these things are great for immersion. I think it's nice when they have this kind of thing. Things like the walk-arounds and removing pins and stuff like that as well.
Like I would love to be able to give hand signals. Like I'd be from the cockpit, like to the wing, like to a multiplayer wingman. I'd like to be able, to push him off or pull him closer and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
To have those kind of things implemented. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Anyway, I think we've made our way to the end of all of that, and that is kind of our time. We've ran more than 2 hours, which is, I think, the longest stream that we've ever run. But then, to be fair, we've had a lot to cover, and it has been the three of us. So we're delivering value for money here, I think. So let's start our outro then. You've been .chuckles. It's been some time, and it's been absolutely fantastic.
It has been. Thank you very much for asking me to drop in for this sort of start of the year one-off. It's been really good. Sorry to have monopolized the talking.
Oh no.
Sorry, John.
We all wanted to hear what you had to say, and it's been fantastic to have you back.
It's a pleasure.
John Bloor, who's been on these streams on a number of occasions as well in the past, check out twitch.tv/John Bloor to keep track of all the wonderful things that he's doing in the world of streaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I do mostly, so people know, I do a bit of DCS, mostly rotor ops. That's my jam. And I occasionally do art streams when I have projects. So some of you may have been lucky to catch when I was doing the Kiowa artwork and the Gazelle artwork for Polychop. And that was some fun stuff. And I might do some more of those things like that in the future. But yeah, it's always fun.
Yes, indeed. I've been Deepak. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, and comment. I'll also give a quick shout out to Deepak's ground crew. If you click the join button below for a small monthly fee, you can further support me in the creation of this kind of content. Thank you very much, those of you who've already done so. Channel Right, J.R. Walker, Fishy's Canal, Mr. Yeti, Tech Tier 0, Sean IM81, John Bloor, Tea Kettle Barbecue, Whiskey Dale, Stuart McLean, Mangash, Exorcist, Frantic, Michael, Willow Wilson, Byron Farrow, Osprey, Sniblaren, Arda Ozcan, Hammy, Paul Cope, JP Gibbons, Warrior 4588X, Kevy Kev, TPA, Irish Pat 64, Henning Ostensen, Colin Kelly, Jason O, Pink Floyd, and Samantha. Thank you all very, very much for your kind support. I've been Deepak. Every Saturday at about 6:30 p.m. UK time, I post a new tutorial, currently doing a series on the Apache, and that's always followed by the DCS news, which just happens to be this thing, what you're watching right now. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you all very, very much for your time and appreciation and support, and thank you so much for Chuckles and John Bluer joining me on this stream. I can barely talk at this stage, so we have to stop.
We are done.
Amazing.
Fly safe, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Ta-ta.